Okay, so hi everyone, Senan on this side, and in this video I would discuss very something that is very close to computer science, and it's one of the core, like it's more or less a thought process why programming languages are the way they are. And so the thing is, today we are discussing something known as variables. So what are variables, right? So before that I would like to talk about, let's say you have a box. So what can you call this? You can call this, let's say, a container. Fine. And what is the job of a container? So it basically stores something, right? And let's say you have a bookshelf, right? Bookshelf is also a container. So you have books in this, and what does a bookshelf allow you to do? What you can do is either store some book. Fine. Either you can store some book, or you can access a book inside this, right? Now I can translate this definition to classes and objects as well, but think of this in a very crude manner. So this what does this bookshelf allow me to do? It allows me to store some books, right? And if I want to get some book, I can go to this bookshelf and take a book out, whichever book I want. Fine. Similarly, let's take an example of this glass which contains water, right? So let's say this glass is about 300 ml. It does not matter the unit of this glass, but you should know this glass is small. That is what I want to depict. So what is this storing? This is storing some water or some sort of liquid. So okay, so what we understood is container stores something. Fine. Something. And at the same time, you also need to understand that different containers can store different things, right? Although this can store a glass of milk, of water, even blood. For some reason, if you donate blood, you can store that in a glass, right? So you can store a lot of stuff, but what this requires it should be some form of a liquid. So this would lead us to a new thing known as data types, right? That is what I'm trying to proceed to. So variables and data types. So this container is referred to as a variable. In this case, this bookshelf would be a variable which stores something. This glass is also a variable, it stores something. Let's say I have a big room, and what I want to do is I want to keep an elephant inside, right? So I want an elephant to stay in this room, so the size of the container would also be big, right, to fit this elephant. But at the same time, in the same box you can store 2 lions, you can store, let's say, hundreds of, let's say, mouse. That's a different thing, that it has a capacity to store these many, let's say, 2 lions and hundreds of mouses, but it can only store a single elephant. So depending on what is being stored, there are different capacities associated with the container. So those are known as variables. Now the things that you can store inside a variable can have different types. Here we stored water. We gave an example of milk, water and blood. So all these three are having a similar property, that is, these are liquid, right? In this bookshelf, they all have a similar property, that every element or every item that is stored in this is a book, right? So it has a specific type of data or specific type of object that can be stored inside this, right? So that specific type can be referred to as the data type. So variable is a container which stores specific types of objects, right? Now I don't want you to take this video way too seriously. It's a very brief description. I have not planned any of this, but I thought that it would be a fun exercise to do this. So let's look at some more examples. Let's say I have a box. I can store some, let's say, basketball in this. Let's consider these are basketballs or footballs. So I can store this. Let's say this box is associated in some sort of sports facility and is used to store balls. So this container would be the variable, right? And the content inside, the type of content that we are storing inside this is or would be referred as data types. So in programming, what you do is store some sort of information, right? Every time you do programming, you store some sort of information in some sort of container. Now let's come closer to programming. So there are different type of containers for different data types. So different types of data, so let me state some types of data. So first is some sort of number, right? A number is something that denotes a quantity, right? So we need to have a container that can store this format of data. This can be further divided into integers. This can be divided into floating point numbers, floats. Maybe if you want, you can consider double as well. So, but these are also floating point numbers with higher amount of precision. That's not important. So integers are whole numbers, or not exactly whole numbers. Integers are quantifiable data, although number is in itself quantifiable, but floats and double would include things which could have fractions in it, right? Half an apple, right? You cannot store half an apple in some sort of integer, because in integers either there is 0 or there is 1. There is no half in between. So number is one sort of data type. Another things can be a string or characters. So every time you see A, B, C, D, or let's say my name Senan, it is generally stored under quotes. So this is some sort of information, right? Although computer does not know, it is not exactly quantifiable, but this is a data. This is my name. So this holds some information and I need to store it somewhere. So string and character can be considered as another data type. So this whole is a string and individual elements is a character. If you consider let's say 1, 2, 3, that would be an integer, but if I do it in under quotes, I would consider this as a string, because now this is not storing the information of a quantity, right? It just knows that there are some characters which has symbol of 1, symbol of 2 and a symbol of 3. This in no way is equivalent to 123. So these are not the same. So computer, your system would treat this and this very differently. Let's think of more data types. Another data type is the Boolean data type. I forgot the spelling. Boolean data type, right? So what does Boolean data type store? Boolean is something referred to as where you have only two options, either it's true or it is false, right? Are you 6 feet tall? So either this can be true or this can be false. You cannot be both. You can and cannot be 6 feet at the same time. Either you are or you're not. For more example, do you have an internet connection? Either you have it or you don't. Do you have a pet? You have it or you don't, right? So it is something which can have only two possible outcomes or two possible classes, or you can see you can have two possible classes, true or false. So these can be considered Boolean data type, but at the same time, you can do the same thing by using numbers. Let's say you say 0 means false and 1 means true, right? You can do this in strings as well. You can consider the empty string as false and any string with some characters as true. Now there are ways to represent different things using different data types, but we have a separate data type for Boolean. So what all other possible things can be there? Am I missing something? Boolean, character, string, integers, float, double. I think those are enough. Those are the basic data types. You can have derived data types, abstract data types. That's a different thing, but that is what I want to tell you. Now finally, the most important part for which I built all of this story up is to explain variable names. Now we will come on to Python, right? So variable names. Now for this I would refer to our elephant. Now let's say you have a container which has an elephant for some reason, and I visit you and I ask, where is your elephant? So what you would do, you would tell me that you would tell me a description of how to reach this box, right? Either you will tell me that there is a blue box, or you will say there is a red box in so and so place, elephant is inside that, right? You are trying to define this location of this container somewhere, right? So the way you reference it, or the way you tell me that where is this located, or how do you tell someone what it is called, right? So every container has a name which is known as their variable name. So let's say if I say int x is equal to 10, and this is in C, but I'm saying that there is a container, right, which stores the data type integer, which has the value 10, and it is called as x. So int x is equal to 10 basically means the data type, the name of the container, and the value that it stores. That is how basically you define variable in any programming language. This would work in C or C++ or Java. And the way Python works is it dynamically finds the data type of the object that you are storing inside it, right? I would say let's say what do I say, GCD, greatest common divisor. Let's say GCD is equal to 3. I write this in Python. So what this means is, since the Python interpreter sees this is a number, so this would assume that this container known as GCD will store data type as 3. Although if you in a later stage write GCD as Senan, now it would see that the data type of string is stored in an object known as GCD. So the type of GCD would be string. In this case it was integer, in this case it was string, or it is a string. So variable names are the most fundamental or most important thing that you would ever learn in any programming language. Now that's all the weird story that I had. Now, finally, I would discuss like the naming convention in Python. More or less this works on other programming languages as well. So the point 1, it should have alphanumeric characters, or underscore, right? So you can have let's say Senan 123 or Senan underscore 123 or underscore Senan 123 or underscore 123 or Senan. These are all valid naming convention for any variable, right? Now second is it should not start with a number. So I say 123 Senan is invalid. You cannot start with a number, because whenever the interpreter, like when I did my compiler course, so whenever you encounter a number, you always consider that as an integer, right? You won't consider this as a variable name. So this is a big no. You can start with underscore, you can have characters, you can have numbers, but you can never start with a number. Okay, that is, I think that is what I have to cover for variable name. Now the most common way to write variable names is using the snake case. This is not necessary because more or less I use camel case. If you don't understand this, I will be explaining this to you in a very short format. But so what is the snake case? Snake case is you write whatever the variable name you have, you write it in lowercase. Let's say Senan, let's say I write my full name, so Senan, and now I have Ali as well, right? So Ali. So yeah, in this no spaces, that is important as well. So variable names cannot have spaces. So if I want to write my name, I would write it like this, but with an underscore separating individual words. So you want your variable names to be as descriptive as possible. I don't think there is a limit of number of characters in your variable name where there is in C or C++. So in the case of camel case, what you would write the same thing as Senan and start the second word with a capital letter. Fine. So that is, I think, what I wanted to cover. I hope this helps. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and more important than subscribing, definitely share it with a person who you think would need this. Like, just share it with someone. Subscription is literally not important. So anyways, thanks for watching, and bye.